Hey, it's Shane. Welcome to part 5 of our series where we build our new adjustable razor in public. This is a pretty big video. We have some big substantial updates, so you're going to want to follow along for this one. First, kind of like last time, I'm going to give you some top level, project level information updates about where the new razor is going. Then we'll give you a POV top down into some of the details. By the way, you're going to see basically the final product today. We made a lot of progress for the last few weeks, so this is a really big one where you're going to get a real sense of what the new razor is going to look like. But first, we have a really big update. We have a name. This razor is going to be called the Osprey, and that's because it's based off the V-22 Osprey tilt rotor aircraft. Here in San Diego, we see these things flying overhead all the time. These are those awesome planes with the twin props that can rotate forward for horizontal flight or go vertically for like a helicopter vertical flight and everywhere in between. And so that level of adaptability and versatility is really perfect for this razor. And of course it fits with our San Diego roots, and our other products like the Sabre, the Vector, and the Blackbird are all names based off military aircraft. So the V-22 Osprey is the perfect candidate for an adjustable razor where, just like the Osprey V-22 can work for any mission, the Osprey razor is adaptable for all sorts of customers, whatever their needs are. Okay, I also want to give you a bit of a higher level update on where we're at right now with the Osprey. So we are basically done with R&D. The product is, as you will find out, in real time it's done, and we're working on production, which I'll get to in a second. What you're going to see today is an almost done sample. There's still some fine details, but it's about 95% of the way done. In real time, what we're working on right now is productionizing. So we are going to be making a test production run. That'll be a dozen or a couple dozen parts. And that's because making one razor is so different than making hundreds, or even making dozens at a time. So we're going to be working on those processes and working on the workflow itself. Right? How do we get the part from billet to a finished assembled Osprey in the shortest amount of time with correct quality control checks along the way? And so we're working on that right now. This is the most complicated product we've ever made, and there are a ton of little details that have to be just right. And so we're spending a lot of time right now to dial that in. And so in real time, we're going to be making these production samples, and those will be used for principal photography, for videography, for advertising the product in the coming weeks. We'll probably also send a few out to maybe some reviewers and stuff like that. But really, this is about testing our processes to make sure that we are caught up. Once we have that done, which I think we'll cover probably in the next video, then we'll be greenlighting full production of these things. So we're not too far off from being done. We're not ready to announce an ETA or anything like that yet, or any of those final kind of product details like price point or availability date, or if we'll do pre-orders. We're not ready for that yet, but we're getting pretty close. We're making some really substantial progress, and I'm just really, really excited. So let's jump into the technical details. And by the way, you're going to see the handle today, which I am so excited about. So let's get into it. All right, introducing the Osprey. For the first time ever, fully assembled knob, handle, engravings. This one's got it all. And first, I just want to give you the overall look at this thing. Obviously, we got some wild stuff going on here, particularly with the handle that we're going to get into. But I'm going to give you the high level. We'll jump into the details. Now, the most obvious thing you're going to see is this big brass insert. And we're going to get into how all that works in a second. But I want to give you the kind of high level look at this thing. So this thing comes in just under 100 grams, which was our goal, sub 100 gram adjustable stainless steel and brass safety razor. We have our indicator arrow and our, of course, knob settings. And the light isn't so bright, this is a lot easier to see. And this knob is nice and grippy. We're getting to those details in a second. You'll notice that this version has these scallops on the side. That gives you a little bit better grip when you are assembling, adjusting the blade gap, things like that. And yeah, so that's our overall look. I mean, I'm so excited. This thing is absolutely wild. And let's take it apart and start talking about, well, the parts. First, I think you guys are gonna want to talk about this handle. This thing is admittedly pretty wild. So as you can tell, it is full hollow, stainless steel shell with these kind of Blackbird-esque grooves. And you can actually see the brass insert there. I'll show you in a second how all this works. You know, for the handle, I want to do something really interesting. And we also wanted to do something not just interesting and unique, but versatile. Something that really fits in with the adjustable nature of the Osprey. Something that you can even take the level of adjustability a step further. And so with the Osprey, you can actually remove this brass insert and save some weight. And I'll get into exactly the details of all that in a second and show you how it works. But that gives you another level of adjustability that you can't get on most or any other razor perhaps. And of course it looks amazing. So for the actual look of it, I've always wanted to do something of an insert like this. And I was inspired by the tuned mass damper in Taipei 101, the skyscraper. Basically in skyscrapers, to make sure that the buildings don't sway too much and get people sick, they put these what are called tuned mass dampers in them. And there are a few different ways they do it, but one way they do it is to hang a huge weight in the building and it's suspended from cables. That way, and it's a specific weight, tuned mass, so that when the building moves, the tuned mass damper slows, dampens the motion of the building. And in Taipei 101, they have this big, beautiful gold tuned mass damper, and it kind of hangs suspended in the building. You can actually go into it. Now, I've never been there, but I think it's beautiful, and I was inspired by that. So we wanted this, in a way, tuned mass, to be suspended, to be hanging there, just like Taipei 101. And from this earlier version of the handle, you can tell that we wanted something full hollow, like this cage that goes all the way through. And of course, you can take out the brass insert, which I'll show you now. So to remove the brass insert, it's just in there with a flathead screwdriver. So we can pull that guy out, show you how it works. So it's pretty cool. Obviously, you have this solid chunk of brass. We're dialing in the exact weight on this, so you'll probably have to revert back to find out exactly what that weight is. What's really cool is that, as you can tell, this handle goes all the way through. And so this actually just threads right into the handle, obviously from the underside. And that makes assembly super easy. And so when you want to remove your mass, you can just unscrew it or put it back in. Keep it out for a super cool kind of skeletonized look and super lightweight, or you can obviously install it for more of a natural weight. Now, of course, what's cool about this is in addition to just overall weight, it also changes your center of gravity. Of course, you know, like a tuned mass damper might suggest, you know, we chose the weight and location to balance the razor best. And so we wanted it right where you're going to pinch the razor, right here at the top. But if you take it out, it's going to give you more head bias in your weight, which might be something you prefer. It will certainly make the razor lighter weight and, of course, shift your center of gravity upwards. But this just gives you another level of versatility, and honestly, it just looks so damn cool. So I am extremely excited, of course, about this. And to me, it just makes the Osprey just even one bit cooler. Let's see if I can get this thing in here. There we go. And just screws right in, and you can see it peeking through there. So that is the Osprey handle. There will be some slight changes to this perhaps in the coming days, but this is very close to the finalized version. It feels incredible in hand and very balanced, very controlled. We're going to be potentially tweaking a couple details down here over the coming days, but otherwise this is pretty close to the production version, and I am just so excited. This to me is one of the coolest things I've ever designed, and I think it makes the Osprey pop like no other razor. But let's get into the rest of the razor. So we're going to be taking one of these apart in a second, but I wanted to cover something pretty cool here, a kind of minor detail that shows the level of effort we're putting into everything. So if you might recall on previous versions, one of the concerns we had was when you tighten the handle against the knob to lock down the adjustment mechanism, you tend to turn the knob a little bit. And when you loosen it, you turn it the other way. And that's frustrating, obviously. If you want to set it at setting 3, and as you tighten it down, you actually turn it to 4. And we want people to be able to hold the razor more like this when they tighten and adjust and then retighten. And so I was thinking, how do we solve that? How do we make it so that when it tightens, all it does is snug everything together instead of having this friction force that rotates the knob? And we took it right back to Physics 101. And what we did is something that I don't think we'll even be able to show on video. But basically, the knob now has this very tiny, in the center here, this very tiny ridge that the handle actually contacts. So what you'll see is that the handle, when we assemble it all, only contacts the very center of the knob. It's actually impossible to tell because that gap is like a couple thousandths of an inch. And by doing that, what we did is shrink the contact patch to like the very center, like that. Basically, there's a little step-up ridge on the knob that touches the handle now. And so since the handle comes in contact now with a much smaller radius, it no longer has a frictional force all the way out to the edge like it did before. You can actually see that little ridge there. Do you see that? You can see that ridge right there. And that's actually the part that's contacting the handle. The rest of this is no longer contacting the handle. And that means that the torque that the handle applies to this surface is much reduced, because that torque is no longer being applied out here at the outer edge where it's much stronger. You know, just like if you use a lever arm to unbolt a lug nut on your car or something like that. We want to reduce that torque, so we want to get as close to the pivot point as possible. That's why we have this little raised surface, because now it's only applying a torque that is that tiny, tiny little distance, and so it can apply a much smaller torque. So now you'll see when we tighten this bad boy up, is things just cinch up nicely. You're always gonna get maybe a little bit of that rotational force, but it is tremendously reduced. Particularly in the higher settings, you don't have any of it because that spring gives you more friction, so it's actually a little bit harder to turn up here. And so, up here we have dead on, loosen, tighten, and that's just a really great usable feature of this razor, another level of detail. And I wanted to kind of also show how we recommend using it when you're going to be using this razor. Now, the way I adjust it, you're tightened, you're shaving, or I think we're at setting 6 right now. And let's say we want to drop it down to 4 or something. So what I like to do is hold the razor here with these new scallops to give us a little bit more grip on the head. Good control also while things are wet. Crack the handle a little bit, right? Now it's loose. And then we adjust with that same hand down to 4. Snug it back up, and that's it. So we loosen, turn, and you can kind of turn the handle with it, and then snug back up the handle. It couldn't be simpler, especially now that the handle's no longer turning the knob. And of course we have our adjustment arrow on this side, and that will indicate your shave setting. We're still actually dialing in the placement of these engravings here on the knob. And the knob grip itself is pretty well finalized. This is super comfortable. We're gonna actually sharpen this up just a little bit to make it just a little more grippy under wet conditions. On the other side, we have the Blackland name here. And then let's just go ahead and pop this bad boy apart. And, we have a good standard top cap with our blade tabs for nice, accurate blade alignment. And this is pretty close to the finalized version. But what I want to do, actually, is take this, or show you a different version that is taken apart, and we'll go over all the little components. Okay, so we've talked about these parts a lot over this course of the series, but I wanted to kind of go over some of the changes we made over the last few weeks. So all these bottom plates, all these knobs, these are from just the last few weeks. And I'm not going to get into all the tiny changes. And I'm also not going to talk about like what version is what, because you can see here we're on version like 30 of the bottom plate. if you think of it that way, or maybe 7.9 or something. Who knows? It's gotten a little, we're organized, but it's gotten a little overwhelming with all the different versions. So I'm going to skip all these tiny tweaks because there's not all that much to talk about. A lot of it is dialing in manufacturing, machining procedures, and fixturing, and kind of boring stuff that is hard to show on video. But, I want to summarize some of those big changes. So let's talk top plate for a second. This is a slightly older version. You can see here this one's fully skeletonized on the bottom and on the top as well. And what we've decided to do is kind of unskeletonize it for the newer finalized version. The top is still skeletonized, and it's actually been thickened up slightly. The bottom, as you can tell, we actually just went back and filled that area in. And the reason is that we wanted this piece, which contacts the blade, to be as rigid and truly flat as possible. And so adding a bit more material here actually makes sense. And we wanted to make sure that the blade is always truly flat. This guy, while lighter and arguably cooler, is a little more prone to warping. So basically what happens when you are machining stuff is that a lot of times flat material, like which this comes from, flat bar stock, you can think of it like, actually I have one here. That's actually a great example. So this is actually another top plate in progress. So it comes in this kind of bar, but these bars actually come from curved material, and they actually unfurl it and flatten it out. And then they chop it up in these little rectangles and give it to us. And what happens is that as you start machining it, there's actually, from being curved up before, from being curled up into like a roll, there's actually these stresses that are still in the metal. And when you machine away like the outer layer, it'll actually kind of curve back up. And we had that issue a little bit here. There are some ways to mitigate that, and we have, but we just decided that, honestly, we don't need it. We should simplify our machining and make it so that the blade is perfectly flat, and we have to do fewer machining operations and save some machining time. So we simplified this part, which is always great. Now let's talk bottom plate. This one is relatively finalized. We're working on getting the engravings just right. Most of the details are the same as last time, at least from the outside. This thread has changed a good bit. That's given us a lot of headaches, and it's the most important part of this design, so we're getting that correct, and it's hard to really talk about that here. But we talked about these scallops on the side, so those have been refined and improved. And then let's talk our final part. This knob actually is clearly just a prototype because we're working on some thread stuff. So this one is not, we're actually working just on specifically getting the threads changed just slightly. So this one's a bare thread, or a bare knob rather. This is our spring, by the way, a super cool wave spring. I could talk about the stupid spring all day long. And it just pops in here. And we have our top plate, and this one does not have a circ clip installed. You can see that O-ring there. There's quite a concern over the O-ring. I want to be clear here. The O-ring is just there so that when this thing is sitting on here, you don't have like metal on metal clacking. It doesn't actually change the function of the razor, and it's not particularly important to the shave. So I know people are kind of freaking out, like, oh, how do we replace the O-ring if you die or Blackland goes out of business? And the answer is, you can put a new O-ring in, if we can figure out how to get you guys a disassemble tool in the future. And even if you can't, it doesn't need it. So if the O-ring deteriorates and falls out somehow, you can still keep shaving. It will not change the function at all. You just have a little bit of like that sound when it's disassembled. But it's just there to kind of give a slightly nicer user experience. And we don't have the circ clip installed, like I said, but when it is installed, it snaps together, and you wind up with something like this. So where we are at in production is, as you can tell, we're pretty far along. We have our handle, we have our head, we have everything that we need, and we are just getting the tiny details right. Real time, we have them resolved, but here we're slightly off. And we're working on productionizing everything. But let me grab the handle again and just wrap things up with a final look at the almost finalized version of the Osprey adjustable razor. And guys, I am, as you can tell, I think extremely excited about this thing. This has been a labor of love. It is, I think, our coolest design we've ever come up with. We'll have a stand being unveiled maybe in the next video. And not only is it just, to me, really beautiful, really interesting, the level of detail here is astounding. At every layer of this onion, there's something more to learn. And I'm excited for you guys to really experience that pretty soon here. So, again, I want to thank you for following along, of course. And I hope that our efforts are appreciated by you guys, and I hope that you love this new finalized razor as much as we do. We are deeply proud of it. I'm personally very proud of it. I know Tyler Jarrett from Kinetic CNC has been putting in just an incredible amount of engineering hours to get this thing just right, and we are just so pleased to finally be here and see the light at the end of the tunnel. Again, I want to thank you guys for following along, and I want to wish you all well. I'll catch you up in the next video, and let us know what you think about this thing. I hope you guys love it, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.